Charge Blade. With good mobility in sword mode, excellent defense through blocks and guard points, huge burst damage through SADs, and built-in KO with impact files, all of this and more have earned its reputation for being a very powerful and also very fun weapon. But how do you maximize the damage on your Charge Blade? Well, I'm Jinjinx.
And I'm Tuna. And we're
the Monster Hunter Math Guys. And this is pre-Iceborne Charge Blade Meta Builds Part 1 Impact Files.
The introduction of Kiara weapons have made Elemental File CBs competitive against certain matchups, and the 18 Nerg armor has straight up upgraded Belos Impact CBs. In this video, we'll be covering the updated sets for Impact Charge Blade. While we covered those sets a few months ago, again, they've improved. In our next video, we'll be covering the Elemental CBs along with a very special guest.
We will also be revisiting the mandatory Charge Blade skills that should be on every single Charge Blade set. We did already cover these in our previous Meta CB video. However, you may not have seen that, and so just in case, we will be retouching on them here. But before that, there are two quick things I want to talk about. First off, it has come to our attention that a lot of you who watch our videos here on the channel don't know that Tuna does stream on Twitch almost every day. He does focus mostly on Monster Hunter World, but he does also play other games on stream as well. We assume that a lot of you don't know about this because of the fact that we put it at the end of every video. But currently, Tuna is trying to become a Twitch partner, which will increase our Twitch revenue by a significant degree. And Tuna and I are equal partners in this business. We literally split everything. And if even 1/10 of the people who watch me stream Monster Hunter World when I rarely do it on YouTube watched him on Twitch instead, he'd already be a partner. So long story short, every video moving forward, we're going to be shilling Tuna's Twitch at the beginning of every video to see if that helps his numbers at all. Moving forward, the explanation won't be nearly as long as this one. But TLDR, go watch Tuna on Twitch. He is genuinely a much better streamer than I am, engages with the audience a lot better, does viewer hunts, answers questions, etc, etc. And like I said, in the future, we'll just keep this very short and simple at the beginning of videos. And the second thing I want to talk about is of course our standard quick disclaimer. All the builds, analysis, breakdowns, and literally everything we do on the channel are not meant to tell you how to play. Unless you are a speedrunner or care about max deeps, these are not the only way to play and we aren't suggesting that. The purpose of what we do is to educate and inform, is to give you the factual information on the relative strengths of different builds and playstyles so that you can make informed build decisions. This video series is meant to provide you with that information, not to state that that is how you should play. I wish I didn't have to keep saying this every video, but play how you like and enjoy yourself. It is a video game after all. So let's briefly cover the mandatory skills on Charge Blade. For Impact File Charge Blades, this is going to be Guard 1, Focus 3, Capacity Boost, Artillery 3, and Attack Boost 4. First off, Guard 1 is the minimum level of guard you want to run. The reason for this is it's the minimum necessary to be able to SAD off of pretty much every attack in the game. In order to be able to combo off of a block into an SAD, you have to have a medium or lower knockback from the attack you blocked. Now, the reason why Guard 1 is mandatory for this is because A, when you charge your shield on Charge Blade, your shield effectively becomes the same blocking power as a lance. And then B, when you guard point an attack, it gives you +2 effective guard level. There are many attacks in the game, including a lot of large monster roars, that if you only have guard level 2 with a lance shield, you will suffer more than a medium knockback from it. This is where guard level 1 comes into play, because with the +2 you get from guard pointing, you now turn a lot of these high knockback attacks into medium knockback attacks. For example, Diablos' and Bagel's Roar both give you a high knockback unless you have at least a lance shield with +3 guard. Guard 1 plus the guard point brings you there, so you can now SAD off of these rolls to get a free hit in. However, if you aren't comfortable guard pointing, then you can run guard 3 instead, and your regular blocks will still be able to get only medium knockbacks against these attacks. Now, the only exception to this is you may have to run guard 3 against Behemoth and Archetype Kolv Taroth, because they have attacks that have so much knockback you need at least Lance Shield with guard 5 to be able to not get large knockbacks from them.
Focus 3 lets you charge more file energy per hit, and makes your charge slash faster. Most importantly though, it unlocks faster charge combos. With Focus 3, you can easily SAD 30 to 50% more frequently. Capacity Boost gives you an extra file. This makes your SAD have an extra file to it, increasing the file damage by 20%. Also, your charge shield lasts an extra 30 seconds. Artillery 3 is mandatory on Impact File CBs. It raises your file damage by almost 30%, which is insanely efficient for damage increases per skill point. 4 attack boost is the optimal level of attack boost to run due to how impact file damage scales. We won't go in depth into CB math here, but we do have a video we've made explaining that already. Link to that in the top right. Alright, now that all of that's out of the way, here are the CB sets. There are 3 new variations of the meta impact file sets with the introduction of Nerd Gamma. If you don't have Nerd Gamma armor, check out our previous Charge Blade video for those old sets. Link in the top right. All of these sets will be stronger in certain situations. While they'll deal the same file damage, the difference is the sharpness levels and corresponding EFRs. The explanation for when they're better than the other is a bit complicated, so we'll leave that until after the sets.
And yes, every single one of these uses the Diablos or the Tareth Horn Charge Blade. They are effectively the same, one is just gold and gives you a little extra defense. No other impact file CB comes close to competing with them due to the way file damage is calculated. Again, we don't want to fully explain that in this video, so check out our file math video if you don't understand why the Blow/Horn Charge Blades are the best impact charge blades.
First up is the No Handicraft set. Health Augment is recommended, as it heals up chip damage from guard points, and an SAD is basically a full heal. But for maximum damage, run a second attack augment instead to bump up your SAD file damage by 2 damage each, at 491.4 EFR with all standard attack buffs. This set will hit the hardest in blue out of all the sets. Keep in mind, no handicraft means no white and less blue. Lower blue sharpness means that if you ever bounce while in green, this set will struggle if you can't keep your sword charged. Despite that, this set is actually the best at longer fights like Arc Tempereds. We'll explain why after covering all the sets.
Next up is the Handicraft 3 set. This one has 3 handicrafts, so you get an additional 30 units of blue sharpness, effectively doubling the amount of blue you have over the no handy version. This drops the EFR in blue sharpness to 471 with Agitator active. Keep in mind this level of Agitator is free, which is the only reason we run it. Another level of crit boost would be ideal, but there's no way to fit that. And speaking of free skills, keep in mind that every single one of these builds is going to use the Nerg 3 set bonus of Hasten Recovery. But please do not misinterpret that as an intentional design choice. That set bonus sucks. You basically heal around 2/3 of a regular potions of healing every 7 hits, I think it is. I can't remember, it's been a while since testing it, but basically it's very bad. If I had the option of adding an extra attack boost instead of using the set bonus, we would do that. However, it turns out that using 3 pieces of Nergigante armor is what gives us the highest stats. So we get Hasten Recovery literally for free. That is the only time it's worth running. Now this particular build with 3 handicraft is the middle of the ground. It is always better than one mob being worse than the other depending on situation. But it's also the one you'll almost always see speedrunners using, and we will explain why in a bit. Now you may be wondering, why do we stop at Handicraft 3 instead of just jumping into White Sharpness? Well, that's what the final build is for.
Our final set is slightly different. This one runs White Sharpness and Protective Polish. We opt for Protective Polish instead of a 5th level of Handicraft, because as long as you use at least 10 units of White Sharpness during the Polish's 1-minute timer, it's worth it. CB is unique in that the first 10 to 20 hits of a weapon are generally much weaker than the last hits. That's because you spend those first hits charging your shield and building files before you start your standard attack combo of spamming SAD. So Polish works out better for us because it lets us minimize the amount of white sharpness loss during that initial ramp up. We don't bother with Item Prolonger 3 even though it would increase the white's uptime. The damage loss is just too high to try to justify the extra 30 seconds of Protective Polish. With Agitator active, this set hits 492.72 EFR. That's only 1.32 more EFR than the No Handicraft set.
And keep in mind, that's when the No Handicraft set is in blue sharpness. However, between the Protective Polish and the 4 Handicraft, this will stay in white and blue sharpness for much longer than the No Handicraft set. And keep in mind, going from blue sharpness to green sharpness is the biggest damage drop loss you get from sharpness loss until you get below yellow sharpness. And if you get below yellow sharpness with endgame meta sets, I don't know what to say. And keep in mind, the No Handicraft build only needs 30 units of sharpness loss to hit green sharpness.
This actually leads to the Polish set being the best set for shorter fights. But why is that the case? Well, to understand that, we need to look at what the average EFR of these sets looks like depending on how many units of sharpness we burn through. And for that, we have a rant by Jinx.
Math time! Okay, so to start off with, this is what each of the EFRs look like at each set of 10 units of sharpness used up for each of the builds. This is purely for a baseline, so we are not yet including the polish uptime. As you can see, from 10 to 70, the highest bounces between each of the different builds. At 70,